Good evening and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of April 27th. We're going to move the agenda items around a little bit because we have an item that we wanted to discuss with the Warrant Committee and Capital Budget Committee meeting and members, and we have quite a good showing. So first of all, thank you for attending on such short notice. We really do appreciate it. So the item has to do with the police dispatch area renovation project. Back in last town meeting in May of 2014, the town voted $455,000 to renovate the dispatch area of our protective agencies building. As is the case in municipal process, we then went out to bid, and the bids were opened early last week, I believe, and came in a little bit higher. Come on in, Jim. Excuse us for a second. Our town moderator, Jim Rapetti, just showed up.
Is that what they call a hot seat?
There you go.
Pull it a little closer.
So as I was saying, at the May 2014 town meeting, Article 11, $455,000 was approved by the town to renovate the dispatch area, the protective agencies building. When the bids were opened, the bids came in significantly higher, and we have to decide how we want to proceed given that. So we just had distributed, I think, to all of us the bid summary, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Ramsey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you can see, we had 7 general bids that were responsive to our requirements. The low bid is bolded. It's Northern Contracting for $440,100. Unfortunately, our construction budget was $382,600. A difference of, in rough numbers, $58,000. But the low bid does not include any contingency. So typically, we would carry a 10% construction contingency, which is roughly $44,000. So bottom line, we're under by about over by $101,000. So for this project to go forward, we need to identify and secure funds totaling $57,500 to be able to sign the contract for construction. And then we need to plan for a construction contingency of approximately $44,000. As you can see from the bid results, 4 of the bids came in very closely aligned, which suggests to us that given today's market, this is value for the money. It's not some sort of sky-high bid. And it's probably not going to get cheaper if we were to delay or cancel the bids and go out again in a subsequent cycle.
So I know that, Dave, you spent some time speaking with Don Mills, our architect, as to why the bids came in higher. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about that.
He hasn't finished his analysis, but clearly our estimates were off the market. And the real question is when did we deviate substantially from the market? The original estimates were prepared back during the Great Recession, and they've been escalated going forward, but obviously not sufficiently, and the market now is really heating up, particularly in the sub-trades. We weren't even able to get a sub-bid for the HVAC this round, which is extremely unusual. So that seems to be the experience others are having as well, that at the GC level, the pencils are still sharp, but at the sub-trades, that's heating up, and they're able to recapture some of the costs they were not able to capture during the Great Recession.
And Dave, if I may, beside the fact that there are cost increases over the last 4 years from the conceptual budget plus or minus our increases, the scope of the work has changed a little?
The scope has increased somewhat to include into the general contract the relocation of the dispatch. Obviously, the dispatch has to be moved. The previous police chief had said he would handle most of the details of that move out and move back. In the meantime, we have a new police chief who did not share the same level of comfort or enthusiasm with coordinating that work. We also included cabling, which was, again, the previous police chief had agreed. He had a cable guy who was going to do that outside of the contract. With the new chief, we thought it prudent to include it in the scope for this general bid. And also, we detected shockingly some asbestos work that has to be remediated, which we never would have foreseen. But how much of the dollar amount is that versus the estimates? That's what Don is still trying to figure out.
So in the bid, we went to town meeting with, or the estimate, these things weren't included?
The
Because
relocation,
I remember some of the stuff we discussed.
there was an allowance in the budget for owner's cost to relocate dispatch. That's been absorbed here, but again, we haven't done the value analysis to say our $25,000 in allowance turned into $50,000 in bid. We haven't done that level of detail yet. But the cabling clearly was not contemplated, and we did not suspect asbestos.
Well, asbestos can always be, as we found at the Caryl Community Center as well, you just never know.
You never know where you're going to find it.
And I know that there's an aspect to the cabling, such as such an incredibly important part of the whole dispatching system, that if you don't have a good, not only the cabling done correctly, but have the good professional diagrams and the as-built, if you will, for the cabling, that should there become a problem, it can be very disastrous for us as a communication center, not only in time, but in money and.
I think there was good reason and great value in incorporating both elements into this work.
Okay, so now we know there's a problem, and so how do we get out of the problem?
Well, there's a number of options. Obviously, we can reject the bids, come back next year, reject the bids, bid again this year. I don't think there's anything to be gained, and I think it's going to cost more money and it's going to be time delay. We could seek from the warrant committee reserve fund transfers for the total amount. We'd break it up, the $57,000 for the contract in fiscal 15 and the contingency in fiscal 16.
If we need it.
If we need it. Yeah, contingency is contingency. We don't know what we're going to encounter. Or alternatively, we could go to town meeting under the supplemental appropriation article, which is one of our boilerplates, and seek the $57,000, rough numbers, from the town meeting, from free cash, obviously, to make it available, and plug it into one of the selectmen's budgets, either selectmen's budget or building maintenance budget, and then the selectmen could award the contract, and we wouldn't miss a beat, understanding that the warrant committee would have to fund any contingency expenses if they arose.
In fiscal year 16.
Fiscal 16.
Okay. Well, I think, from my perspective, the thought of delaying it even longer from 2015, I mean, had the town approved it back in 2010, it would be $400,000, not 500, whatever. And we tend to always vote once or twice for anything, and all it does is delay things and increase the cost. So I think to do this again, it's very clear that the economy is going to be continuing to go this way. It's going to cost more. So I would hope that the option of rejecting the bids, going out to bid again, delaying until 2016 town meeting is off the table. That's penny wise and pound foolish.
I agree that I'd like to see the project move forward. I'm very curious at this point to, without nailing down a warrant committee decision, what the initial thoughts are on this, if you have any.
As chair, I think I'd say that I don't speak for everyone. We haven't discussed it yet. Obviously, we're just learning about it right here and now, so we may want to take six individual opinions. But my first impression is I'd like to understand a little bit more deeply exactly how we got here from the estimates that we had and I understand the overview, but I'd like to sort of get it pieced out a little bit more. And this may not be the appropriate forum to do that, so that I really truly understand exactly where the escalations were. For instance, what was the amount for asbestos that's being anticipated? But I think I'd like to understand it a little bit more without going out on a limb here. That's really my my view. I think
So we have
the
six.
rest of the warrant committee
Well,
members certainly can pipe up.
Sure, so James, let me just say, we have 6 working days until we have town meeting. So we're going from the philosophical to the practical and the governance issues right now. So, yes, I think we've got Don Mills on it, and hopefully we'll get something.
I'm hoping Thursday as quantitative an analysis as we can have.
Okay, so we have a moderators meeting and selectmen's meeting and warrant committee meeting on Thursday. So certainly, I won't be attending, but you can all meet on Thursday. But we have to have a decision by Monday. Otherwise, the option of using the supplemental appropriation goes. So we have to have a decision by Monday.
Could I just ask a question? In terms of using the supplemental appropriation, that approach, if I heard you correctly, Ms. Ramsey, I thought we would use 57,500 would be the number, and to the extent that there was a need for contingency, then that could come in front of the warrant committee as it was referenced. Why not, I know it's a bigger number and it has a bigger impact on the town, taking vote, but why wouldn't we include the amounts for the contingency in a supplemental?
It may be possible, John, to do that, but I'm worried about municipal finance law. If we have a contract, we can carry over funds. Contingencies, obviously, we may not have any for a while, so we couldn't carry over the $44,000 into fiscal 16 under municipal finance law unless we had known obligations.
57.5 ties directly to a contract that we would sign in fiscal year 15.
Yes.
Okay, the contract doesn't have a contingency in it, because that's an internal decision that the town makes. So, there's no accrual
But
account.
we approved a contingency which would not be.
On a conceptual budget.
Yes, but I guess I need a better education about that, not right, we don't have the time for it now, but that's interesting, because we would never have tapped the contingency because the construction was never gonna start until spring into the summer anyway, so.
The contingency that was voted was in the article.
Yes.
Articles play under different rules in operating budgets. That's the reason.
Oh, because this is gonna be put into a selectmen's budget.
There's no place else to put it.
I'm beginning to.
And the reality of the situation is we're going to town meeting 18 months before these transactions even begin or before you come. So you really have to have some kind of contingency in there.
Oh, yeah, no,
Because
I'm
you
not
have-
disagreeing with the
Right, because you just
contingency at all.
have no
that's-
idea
that's
of
just-
what the cost of the contract's gonna be ultimately.
James, I agree with your viewpoint, and again, I just saw this for the first time this evening. I agree that I'd love to see the analysis where the costs have risen, but my question goes to a general question to the warrant committee this evening, and I'd like to hear from everyone, quite honestly, on whether you want to see the project move forward or delay it a year, and if we want to move forward, we have a couple of
Happy
options.
to chime in on that. I think it sounds like it would be reasonable to have the project move forward rather than put it off for additional amounts. I mean, one could debate how much more expensive it would be, and, it was something that was voted for. The town anticipated doing it now that we're getting ready to do it. So, the question is just sort of how it would be handled, and I think the warrant committee will want to make sure that we do our full due diligence in investigating the changes here, just as we investigated last year the proposal, and we went through all of the budget aspects of it. We'd just like to make sure that we close the loop a little bit, I think. But in terms of when moving forward, I think what has been suggested, at least to me, makes sense. And but I think we'd like a little bit of time to investigate a little bit and deliberate, and then come back. But I don't see if anyone else has anything to add to that. Please feel free to chime in.
This is the forum that should ask some questions.
My
As
question-
Caryl said, we have a couple of days left here. It's tick, 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 about 11:55 at night.
My question will be very brief. whether there's any mechanism, if we wanted to increase the reserve fund for FY16. There was no request to raise it from 250,000, but it had been discussed. I know there are mechanisms in place if the reserve fund is ever depleted, but maybe we should increase the reserve fund in advance, just in case these contingencies come to pass.
It's certainly doable.
Yeah, I mean, town meeting hasn't occurred yet, so instead of asking for whatever it was gonna be that you were asking for, 200 or 250?
Make a
You
motion.
could do that.
250 would make a motion at the time.
Right, so you could change the motion, which we discussed Thursday night at the moderators meeting, right, Mr. Repetti? I would also suggest, however, that you look back at the last couple of years, I haven't really been paying much attention to it, but I know Jim's been on the warrant committee liaison, to see what kind of reserve fund dollars you've spent, because I don't think you've come all that close.
Just the one with the oil tank
Right.
removals that Carol's
Right.
pointing out.
So, it could be that you really don't need to, and that if you're at this time next year, and your reserve fund is depleted, well, then you could just do a supplemental appropriation.
Yeah.
Right,
Dissolve the
that's what I
fund.
was kind of hinting
Right.
at.
So it's sort of decided.
I just wanted to raise the
Yeah,
issue.
but it can be done at town meeting. I mean, that beauty of having opened the bids last week is that we have options to do all kinds of different things at town meeting, which is fully transparent, explains everything to the community, versus having no choice but to either delay or use a reserve fund after the fact.
Carol makes a great point, that we want to be very transparent in this and not, because of the time frame, the availability of town meeting right in front of us, instead of just relying on the reserve fund to ask you guys for funds a month from now. So again, we seek guidance. Unfortunately, there's only a few minutes left, so to speak. So you guys are going to have to put your heads together
We're
quickly.
under pressure.
That's, I like that, I like that, I like that.
But this path, if we go this path, as I understand it, Mr. Ramsey, you can correct me, definitely if we went over to supplementary and it was not approved, for whatever reason, on Monday evening, the reserve fund transfer is not an option.
I would certainly not recommend it.
I mean, but I think legally it's not an option anyway.
It probably isn't.
Anyways, but
It probably is
seems to
not.
be things that have been voted down at town meeting are not allowed to be,
Right.
so we would go to, well, next year, I guess, or, assuming we move forward.
Yep.
But this is just, in terms of the approach, and this is just my opinion, seems to be the most open, transparent, gives it, townspeople a chance to vote, on the supplemental appropriation.
I think it also raises an issue that as a town we haven't grasped with in many years, is the fact that when you do go to town meeting, you are presenting an article based upon a budget, and that budget can come in higher or lower, and that's the risks that we take as townspeople. So I think that this helps emphasize that too, because one of the questions I asked Dave was, for me, I wanted to know how we missed this. And one of the trends I was informed of is that many communities are currently facing the identical dilemma that we are, whereas things that went to bid 18 months ago that are now coming to bid are over budget. And so many towns are facing exactly the same dilemma. I mean, fortunately for us, the timing has given us options. But.
If you look at the numbers, we're talking well over 30% increase in 4 years.
Contractors are freeing themselves up for the 2024 Olympic bids.
Better get all your building.
They know that things are going to get much better for them.
So,
No, I should know the answer to this, but I don't, at this point in time, there are not any other items on the supplemental appropriations list, are there? Yeah, I just want to make sure.
in fact, in the rule book, we did not anticipate at the current time that there would be any request for supplemental appropriations, so the blue book does not reflect this, obviously, and so people should not be confused by that.
Fortunately, it's a very rare occurrence. I think we had one a couple
You were
years ago at
shocked.
the schools or something, but it's been a long time since we've had one.
So will Mr. Mills be available at town meeting for a presentation and questions from the community?
Certainly for questions.
And a presentation, or is,
We'll probably have one of the selectmen do the presentation.
So, is there anything else from our committee? So will it be agreeable with you all if we meet, discuss, deliberate, and then get back to you with sort of our,
Well, I think we have
And then
official
Thursday.
meetings on Thursday, right?
on
Yeah,
Thursday
we have a
night?
warrant committee meeting Thursday evening, right?
Right, is it Monday? meeting?
I think that's more than appropriate that you discuss it amongst yourselves. But
Well,
I would be
it'll be an
prepared.
open meeting that we'll be discussing it, but just, we won't be at your meeting.
Right, but I would hope you come to a conclusion at the, by Thursday evening.
Well, you need to.
Right, well, they don't have to, but I'm hoping.
By the end of the Thursday meeting, you would.
You're a lot nicer than me.
That's true, that's very true.
Well, it's only 5 to 7, you can always meet for the next 2 hours.
That's very true. Yes, Mr. Repetti, excuse me, Carol.
I think it would be helpful for the town meeting if the chief or somebody else would be prepared to summarize what the needs were for the renovation, because there may be people in the town meeting who weren't at the earlier town meeting, or they may have just moved into town. So they may have a question about why we need the renovation to begin with. So a brief summary of that would be helpful. And I also think it would be helpful when David gets the report, if we had a chart at town meeting that summarized where the variances were, so that people could see what was causing the problem. Because, as you pointed out, the more transparent, the better. So I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I went back and took a look at that wonderful presentation you did last May, and there are a couple of slides in there that we can just put up to do just what Mr. Repetti has suggested, and then a couple new ones.
Right, well, we should, I completely agree. I think it's confusing trying to understand exactly, you think you approved 455, and the contract's coming in at 440, and I think some people might ask, well, what's the problem here? So I think we need to be a lot more transparent about that.
Anything else? Anything from capital budget?
The only thing that came to mind, and I really think the solution that you guys have proposed is right, the thing that came to mind is sort of the quality of the estimates for some of these projects. And as you all know, we have some rather large projects coming up in the next couple of years tied into the renovations at Caryl. So does this mean that we should be looking at taking a little stronger look at some of these estimates that we have to make sure that they're not going to fall to the same sort of pressure that the contractors have, because we have a growing economy again?
Maybe we should mention that.
If I-
Mr. Mills has a couple of things on his plate right now.
Okay, all right. So we
That was an
have the
excellent
full
point.
review, so.
Absolutely, excellent point.
It is, and I brought this up this afternoon, Mr. Ramsey called me about the issue, and right to that point, because one of the articles, Article 11, is asking for a big amount of money on a conceptual budget. But the big differences are the timing of the conceptual budget when it was prepared, the scope of the conceptual budget, and perhaps on this, the police, the Protective Service Agency building, the scope's changed, it's older, even though we've increased it, so all of a sudden it's a perfect storm of problems. So I know in my presentations about the Carroll Community Center facilities upgrade, I talked about how Mr. Mills is actually on spot for these conceptual budgets, and that's one of my bullet points. So I'm very concerned about that, and that's why I raised the issue this afternoon, but I'm satisfied he does a great job, but this particular issue had a couple of outside factors that we're not used to.
Anything else? Well, thank you all for coming on such short notice, really appreciate it. And guess we'll continue the discussion Thursday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. The first item on it was performance appraisals. It's just that time of year when our town administrator discusses the process that we use for the formal appraisals of our staff. Or we're.
Sure. This is Lisbon. A number of years ago, the Personnel Board adopted a performance appraisal system. The purpose of this system is for supervisors to evaluate their employees, both reflecting on their performance in the past year and setting goals and expectations for the coming fiscal year for that employee. And the employee and the supervisor sit down, they review it at length, and step increases are based upon satisfactory performance. So in order for them to get that increase in the coming fiscal year on the step increment plan, they must have performed satisfactorily in the past year. So we are asking the board to allow us to move forward with that process again, starting now, so that we can prepare for the coming fiscal year.
Well, I certainly know that they are multi-page, in-depth combination of checklists and text.
They are.
Subjective and subjective, which I think is very helpful. And I know that they do serve as a good launching point for discussions with the actual employee, which is probably the most important thing.
Yes, yes it is, yeah, because that really gives an opportunity for feedback to occur. It occurs throughout the year, but this is the formal sit-down on that.
I think it's a great process that
It
we
is.
embark upon, and it's important to give people feedback on their performance, and, so all of us can improve on every aspect of what we do.
Agreed. Yes, yeah, we all can, so.
So you're recommending the same form and the
Yes,
same process that we've had in the past couple of years?
yes.
Has there ever been any negative feedback about that?
Oh, there has been some, and
I'm sure
there
about
have been
completing
some
them.
instances where the step increase was in fact withheld.
Okay,
Yes, and those we really focus on. We want to assist the supervisor in getting the employee to achieve a satisfactory level of performance. So it's a really good opportunity to sit down with that employee and give them the assistance that they need in order to achieve a satisfactory level.
good. No, I've heard this request for, this will be my 5th or 6th year, I forget when, time flies when you're having an excellent time.
So senior moments.
But I'm very comfortable with that appraisal system performance you have in place. I'm very comfortable with it.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you.
Summer hours.
As the board has been very kind to do in past years, we are requesting that they consider closing the townhouse on Fridays, commencing the Friday before Memorial Day and ending the Friday before Labor Day at 1 p.m. Affected employees are asked to make up those hours from Friday early closures in advance of the Friday in which they go home at 1, and it's greatly appreciated by the employees. Not everyone works Monday through Friday. It's a nice opportunity for those who are committed throughout the week to get a start on their summer weekends.
Do you have the exact dates of the request?
Yes, so the Friday before the designated 25th Memorial Day is May 22nd.
22nd, thank you.
And the Friday before the September 7th Labor Day is the 4th.
Oh, good. Labor Day is getting to be a little more
It's very late this year.
Versus the past couple of years when it's been too early.
Yeah, well, you know,
It's always considered.
every
late.
7 years, it sort of goes around. It's the most amazing thing. Amazing.
Well, I think that's great to give the town employees the opportunity of Fridays at 1 o'clock. And again, I've sat here and heard this request for a number of years, and I'm more than happy to let this continue.
And we know that it's not taken advantage of, that they do make up the hours, and
They do.
they're very diligent about that.
Yeah, they have to submit something to our office, so we're aware of when they're in fact making up the hours.
Good.
So do we need to take a vote on this?
Yes.
So do I have a motion to close at 1 o'clock on Fridays beginning May 22nd through Friday, September 4th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, the employees, certainly appreciate it.
Okay, next item is to vote to accept and expend a gift from the Dover Historical Society. This goes under the gift acceptance and expenditure policy that we implemented almost 2 years ago now, which seems to be serving us well. The Dover Historical Society was asked if they'd like to participate in an exhibit at the Caryl Community Center. And on the first floor, by the steps that go up to the second floor, in the front, on the Springdale side, they have put up a beautiful Dover Historical Society sign, and then a series, I don't know how many there are, but probably a dozen or so, it's about a dozen, picture frames that they will be using for rotating exhibits. And they had their first exhibit, which I believe is still up, but they had it ready for the open house for the Caryl Community Center to look at the facilities renovation open houses that were held by the Caryl Management Advisory Committee last month. And it was wonderful. I think it was watercolors by Dick Vera. It's a fantastic exhibit. If you haven't seen it, it's absolutely wonderful. It's incredibly I knew he was a good historian. I had no idea he had that talent too. It's really amazing.
They're really whimsical, they're really.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Bright and colorful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they're really.
And I think it's a wonderful idea of CMAC to go to some of the organizations in town and have them start using the community center as a community center education process as well. So it's just great. The Dover Historical Society, being its own entity and a 501c3 charitable organization and volunteer organization, with memberships open to all in Dover. I'll put in a plug for joining and paying your dues to the Dover Historical Society every year. It's a great organization. They take care of the Solwyn Building and the Caryl House primarily. Anyway, two individuals that have long been involved in the Dover Historical Society offered to pay for the purchase and the installation of the signage and the picture frames and so forth, to the tune of $1,000. And I guess the gift actually is from the Dover Historical Society, not the individuals. But we thank you, the Dover Historical Society, for that generosity. And I believe the final stuff should be in this week. Tomorrow.
The signage?
Installed tomorrow.
Installed tomorrow. Come on down
Fantastic.
before town meeting, and while you're there looking at the beautiful signs and exhibit, go try to use the bathrooms. So, let's see, we need to vote to accept the gift, and do we need to vote to expend the gift as well? So we'll do a twofer, all on the same night. Do I have a motion to accept a gift of $1,000 from the Dover Historical Society to then be used for the installation of the Dover Historical Society exhibit wall at the Caryl Community Center?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you again. And go and take a visit, folks, it's really nice. What's today's date?
Today's 27th.
27.
It's actually on the heading of the agenda.
But I need to read too.
Does Caryl have to, okay, is there two of them?
I did sign the right name.
Mona will start stamping them for you.
This one has to expand it.
I mean, all I've been doing is signing my name on checks for the wedding, so this is easy to sign.
See, the date's right underneath.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will now jump to, what would be a selectmen's meeting without an update on the Minuteman regional agreement? And let me guess, Mrs. Hunter.
So, at our last meeting, we had some very good conversation about the status of the Minuteman Regionalist Agreement, and I asked for a little bit of time to go back and talk to our representative, Dover's representative, Ford Spalding, and also touch base with some of the other communities that I've worked with on trying to get this amendment approved. Basically, where we stand right now is one town has still voted no to accept the agreement, and another town has deferred. And at this juncture, I am going to make a recommendation that we as a town defer. I am very concerned that if we do bring this to town meeting, it's a confusing issue, and there's an excellent chance we're going to be back at town meeting next year, or we're going to be asked to hold a special town meeting. And I think it would just be extremely confusing to voters to have to vote on this issue twice. So since the agreement will not be passed this year, one town has voted no, one has deferred, I would recommend that we do the same.
So from a practical standpoint, our vote this year would be meaningless anyway.
Exactly, which is the point, and it's a very confusing issue, and I think we run the risk of being turned down if we go to town meeting twice. It's hard to make, an argument the second time around, so.
Well, especially since that, I think a lot of the issues that we've raised over the last 15, 18 months now
Right.
are still unresolved.
Correct. They still haven't figured out how to let the smaller towns out, because those are the towns that this new agreement is punitive for. And now there's a lot of talk about just sticking with, the current, or the agreement that's in place, so we'll see. The sad thing about this whole situation is there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that they need a new school. There's also no doubt about the quality of the program that they run. There's a need for the program. So it's just unfortunate, but I suppose when you get 16 towns, each with different needs, it's not surprising that we are where we are today.
It's amazed me over the years that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has been so interested in the regionalization approach of municipal services. And unless they're the most simple of things,
Right.
they're only trouble down the road.
I have 2 points. One, I totally agree with your thought process, Robin. Number two, I want to thank you for being the point person, because this is, I know, a lot of work in a short time in the last couple of months, and frustrating.
Yeah, it's all for nothing almost, right?
So I agree with
appreciate
your
it.
suggestion to defer.
So I think we need to take an official vote, right?
Okay, I also would like to add, I think that in addition to, the time that you put in to help us understand it all, that you have, this may be a good or a bad thing, that you've set yourself up as a point person for Dover, and one that's very knowledgeable of what's going on. And as the process continues with Minuteman, I would assume that there'll be those from other towns that want to work with you on behalf of Dover.
I also think that we should thank Dan Matthews, the selectman of Needham, because he spent a lot of time bringing me up to speed on the issue, making sure that my questions were answered, making sure that some of the numbers that we needed to make a decision actually were, the analysis was done. Dan has put in a lot of hours to try and move this process forward. And I, for one, really appreciate all his help and guidance.
I think we'd also be remiss not to mention Ford Spalding's
Right.
time and effort, and he's taken, beside a liaison to the Board of Selectmen in the town of Dover, to Minuteman, he's taken on the added responsibility to being building chair,
Right.
I believe, which is a huge role over there. So Ford, thank you for helping us, and, you know, I can't really add anything more to that. Can't imagine the amount of time he's putting into this also.
Right, well, he has spent a lot of time, you know, with me also, and with
Right.
Dan, you know, getting me up to speed. So between the two of them, they've invested a lot of time in me.
Well, and Ford and the superintendent and his team did come to Dover and give a very good
Twice, right.
presentation last month.
Right, on the school.
Not on the agreement, but on a new school.
Right.
And the options there. And it's, you know, to your point, it's very clear. And we've said that all along, and I think that's one of the issues that makes it so frustrating. This issue is going back 5-6 years now.
I know.
And we all know that the program is wonderful. We all know the education is wonderful. We all know that that type of education is really the kind of education for the future, and that they need better facilities to implement the program. But getting from that to an agreement with 16 towns is
Right.
just very, very difficult.
Right, and many of the towns are, you know, in a position where they have to fund rebuilding their own high schools right now. So you have competing interests.
Okay, so Robin, would you like to make
Right,
a
so
motion?
I would like to make a motion that we defer, I can't remember the warrant articles, but
Hold on a second. Here's the list.
the,
This one?
right, warrant article 15 and 16 and 17
I think there's 3 of them. Okay.
for this coming town meeting, and, you know, hopefully we will be back next town meeting with an agreement that works for all 16 towns.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Too bad the warrant committee members weren't here to hear this, because they're very anxious to find out how we were going to act on this. And they actually, I was in a warrant committee meeting, the last one they had, and they talked about, may I have that list back, because it shows who the sponsor of the article is. And I thought Minuteman, yeah, so Minuteman's on 15.
Right, so that's for the regional school agreement, and we put it on our warrant article on behalf of the
On
Minuteman. Right.
behalf of them, okay. They were asking the technicality of how we could act on that, because Minuteman, I couldn't answer that question technically.
Right, so, you know, so again, you know, we worked with town, special town council on
Right.
how to
Okay.
list these warrant articles.
Um,
And the way it works is if you don't vote in favor of 15, 16, and 17, a null and void,
Right.
basically. So they were contingent upon a vote.
Should I take it on my own effort to contact Mr. Stewart, Chair Warrant, and tell him? Or,
I can do that. He did contact me, and I was
Good, thank you.
reluctant to contact him until we had a
that
vote.
is fine.
And you'll go through all that again at the moderators meeting on
Right.
Thursday
Right.
evening, as you go through the articles. Well done, Robin, thank you.
I'd say it's been a pleasure, but it has been a work and a learning experience.
Okay, to the more mundane. Prior notice from the building maintenance account for the Caryl Community Center. This is for the repair of the flue pipe and the breaching repair on boiler number 2, which we had discussed the other day.
Yeah, this was the last invoice on that.
Ah, okay, so there've been one or two more, right? Okay. $4,000. And then there's $2,000 prior notice for the same, 3,000,
2,000
Two
for
different
snow and
invoices?
ice for, yep,
okay.
2 different ones, 2
Different
different.
invoices, one
Oh,
for
okay,
2,000,
thank
one
you.
for, okay, good. One for 2, one for 1.
And that's the last invoice for removal of snow and ice. from the- Hopefully.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go through this again. Relative to the repairs at the community center, for the flue pipe and the boiler number 2. We have a $1,000 prior notice. For the snow and ice at the community center, we have a $2,000 prior notice.
Good.
And we have a third prior notice for $19,000, which I'm going to hold off to talk a little bit more about. So let's go and may I have a motion from somebody on the first 2 prior notices?
Okay, I forgot, we took votes on the prior notice?
We typically do.
Good, thank you. I'll make the motion then that we approve the prior notice for the building maintenance for $2,000 for the Caryl Community Center. And then the second prior notice is we approve $1,000 for the Caryl Community Center, right?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the third prior notice that we have, oh, where's that first? There you go. The third prior notice is for the Caryl House.
I know, that was really confusing.
Okay, for $19,000 to replace the heating oil tank and remove the old oil tank for the apartment that's behind the historic structure. And
Did
we
you
have-
get it right?
Yes, she did.
Which is rented. We have a leak and had to go through all that. It was managed by our superintendent of buildings, Carl Warnick. And it's all fixed. Mr. Ramsey and I and members of the Dover Historical Society, Elisha Lee, its president, and Pam Kochmuller, and Priscilla Jones, and I think Jack came in at the end, met last week to discuss all this, to talk really about how the Caryl House is maintained and managed, because it's a historical structure where the stewardship of the house has been given to the Dover Historical Society, yet the house is owned by the town of Dover. So when we went ahead and needed to spend significant funds to fix a whole bunch of things that were going on in the building to the tune of about $150,000 4 or 5 years ago, it was done from a Board of Selectmen warrant article with a team of selectmen and Carl Warnick and members of the Dover Historical Society. So the history has been that major items like that have been paid for by the town. The Historical Society, in their generosity, uses their own revenue, which they get from renting the apartment, and they get over $9,000 a year for that, to handle the normal run-of-the-mill maintenance and just general operating expenses of the building. And they've actually been carrying that at a loss for a couple of years from a cash flow basis. So I certainly appreciate their efforts to do that. But this is one of those major items that I think really does belong in the town coffers. And that's sort of the background to this request.
My question goes to the request itself. It's $19,000, and I notice is typically, in my mind, there's some monies left in the budget. Perhaps at the end of the year, there'll be zero, and you'll have to ask for a reserve fund transfer. Now, we have zero monies in any account to pay for this. Why isn't this a reserve fund transfer right now?
Well, we always are hopeful that there'll be some money left over in the overall budget. We don't have a line item for Caryl House.
Okay,
That's true, but if there is, we can charge it there. It's becoming increasingly unlikely that there is, but we try to maintain the discipline of giving you a notice before we ask for funds.
Yep. Okay, I can appreciate that, thank you.
So these funds could come out of the maintenance budget?
If there's money left,
If there's
yes.
money left. Okay.
That budget's been beaten pretty good this year.
I can't imagine why.
But the reserve fund itself has been, it's in pretty good shape.
It's excellent
Yes,
shape.
it is.
Right, so we have the funds available.
Right.
Okay.
What is available right now in the reserve fund?
I think
I have it in another folder, I don't have it with me. Right, I thought it was maybe 175.
Really, out of the 250.
It's a big
So
number.
is it-
It's, right now, the balance available is
A
209,000.
little higher than I thought, yeah.
There's,
There's commitments against that.
but there are likely commitments
Right.
against that that could bring it down to a substantially lower number, but still not trouble.
To the conversation we had earlier this evening.
Right,
In fact, we
exactly.
really need to increase it, even knowing about the contingency for the protective agencies building. Okay, special licenses. What do we have here?
Did we vote to
Oh,
approve
did we
that
not
prior
vote that?
notice? I'll make a motion to approve prior notice of $19,000 for the Caryl House heating oil tank removal and replacement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Now we are on to special licenses, and we
Like we have
have
three.
3, so I'll just read them all. We can approve, all of them approved by Chief McGowan, it looks like. Yep. One at the Connors Center on April 30th, memorial service. Carroll Community Center. Oh.
Yeah, I was,
On May 4th. And Massport, Elm Bank, oh, the Antique Car Show for July 21st.
That's very nice when the weather's nice.
And where they have the traffic taken care of appropriately, which was a disaster, was it 2 or 3 years ago, which got the Wellesley Police involved as well as the Dover Police, and it was,
yes. The May 4th one is interesting.
yeah,
This may be one you folks actually get invited to.
Maybe. It'll be the first one. Okay, all my time up here.
oh, I think my mind's on other things. Oh, aha, that's interesting. Tradition is great, I would say, decades of tradition.
This is a nice idea, though.
It does make sense, walk
Yeah.
across the street, oh, actually, drive down it. I don't even know where I am right now, thank you.
I think there's some spouses that are going, this could be a good thing.
Yes. Well, did you make the motion, or
Sure.
I will make the motion to approve the 3 special licenses as read.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You each get one.
Yeah. You're getting really good at that shell game. There we go.
Great, thank you.
Next one is a request for, again this year, a bicycle ride through the town of Dover on September 25th for a Breaking AIDS ride. 3-day bicycle event to benefit Housing Works, a major AIDS service organization headquartered in New York City and with offices around the country. Chief McGowan has approved this, so I assume everything went well last year. We'll be going on to Main Street, then Claybrook, Springdale, and Farm. Okay. The worthy organization?
Okay, so I'll make the motion that we approve the request for a bike ride on...
Breaking AIDS ride.
Thank you, Breaking AIDS ride on September 25th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And they'll be riding through our area from approximately 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So sleep in.
And we have another one, this is the season. This is 4th annual bicycle ride for food through Dover on Sunday morning, September 20th. They have a 25-mile ride and a 50-mile ride. been approved by Chief McGowan with their certificate of insurance. Let's see, any times on this?
Well, it just tells you when they're gonna start, but I don't know where they start.
Oh, started basis leaving Dedham between 7:30 and 8:30. And 9:30 and 10:30, so probably could be most of the morning.
Right.
Time go through.
And that is the 20th
The
September?
20th of September.
Oh, interesting, the Breaking Age is on a Friday.
Oh.
I
so
just
noted.
noticed that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this could be an all-day event.
If
Well,
they
I know,
switch. This
yeah.
one, yes.
I mean,
The
because they
morning
have lots
commute
of
will be,
roofs.
Right.
Somewhat effective.
Oh, should be coming through between 8 and 11:30. Here it is. Approximately 200 riders will be cycling through Dover.
Right.
Wow. I think there were 200 riders out riding around Dover this past weekend.
I would agree with that.
That's on a Sunday morning, okay. I'm surprised at the Friday morning one.
Yeah, it's commuting time.
Absolutely. So Springdale from Cross Street.
Yeah, I mean, we're going against most of the traffic on Farm, because most of the traffic on Farm, that time of the morning comes north.
But it's
That's
also in
going
the
south.
school, it's,
Yeah.
but I guess they're
Yeah,
not
well,
going
the
that far.
chief just looked into it, so,
Yeah.
and they've done it before, I guess. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the 4th annual bicycle ride for food on September 20th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. You know, I like to see this cert of insurance. Do we get them for all the,
I don't believe we do.
would it be good practice? I'm wondering, maybe I'll talk to my own insurance guy to see if there's a pro or con on it. Because interesting, let's talk about this very quickly, I don't mean to,
Go right ahead.
if one of these bikers falls because of roadways or curbs or something, probably make a claim against the town of Dover, wouldn't they? So if we ask for to be additionally insured in an insurance cert, which is no cost to the insured, it might alleviate some future problems.
We can look into it. I'm not sure that all of these groups have insurance.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You might want to talk to our agent and see what he or she suggests. Sure.
I do know that we had one of our patrol officers stationed on Wilsondale this weekend to address that lingering issue of cyclists speeding down Wilsondale.
I did not know of this particular issue, but thank you.
Yeah, so it came to a head last year, because,
Oh, somebody,
actually-
got hit, right?
and yes, but the cars coming out of the driveway, people get
Right,
hit.
right. I do know
And
that.
there's actually a website where cyclists post their times for known hills to see who can speed down a hill the fastest. And Wilsondale is listed as one of the Metro West spots.
That's a dangerous road just to drive down.
Exactly, and certainly some of the citizens there have had their cars damaged, as well as just the whole safety of trying to come out of their driveways. And I spoke with several last year, and Chief McGowan has been involved for quite some time with them. We looked into what we can do legally, which isn't much. There's no appetite to make it a one-way road going up, so that would be the most operationally effective thing. If you put speed bumps or speed trenches in, then that gets into your liability and real safety issues.
Yeah.
So the solution was for the chief on a sporadic but regular basis to have a patrolman there to check out the cyclists, because now they're getting into the season now where they are.
So it's a public safety issue versus a law issue?
It's a practical issue, not a legal issue.
It could be lucrative. Could be a revenue stream.
Interesting.
Do
Well,
we
if
give
there's
that toll?
if there's no
Do they-
fines on the.
Do they give
boat,
out citations?
Well,
These
they
guys,
can't,
they
I don't
have to be
You know, when
going
you,
really fast, though.
when you go skiing, you can pay your $5 a run and go through the gates and they
Right.
time you and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, we could.
I like that,
you
I
know,
like that.
Interesting.
Downhill cycling.
What was the report from the police officer? Did you get any?
I didn't get anything formal. I mean,
Wonder
they've
if-
observed them, they've stopped a couple of cyclists. I don't believe they've issued any citations. And one of the issues, if you issue a citation to a vehicle, you track the vehicle and enforcement is through the registry.
Yeah.
I suppose there is
Right.
for enforcement. Yeah, you could be stopped, say, my name's Joe Blow. Okay, we write out a ticket for Joe Blow. Where do you live? I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay, write that out, and then, then
Right,
they go
right.
their way. So it's a real challenge, as Mrs. Liston said, to come up with something that can effectively stop this kind of behavior.
It's a huge issue. My husband did not speed down Rosendale. He just came back to tell me there was a patrol officer there.
I heard we couldn't catch him, but that, no.
And he didn't have his license with him. Right. Yeah, with all the complaints about the cyclists in Dover, I think Wilsondale is the most problematic.
I didn't realize that.
There's one resident there who, at considerable private expense, is relocating a driveway and blasting rocks and so forth to do so to.
Because of bicycle? Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Minutes of April 9th. Thank you, Mona, for these.
They look so good.
I had just suggested a quick renaming of the 9th? April 9th. Oh, I'm sorry, that's next meeting. So we
You change that.
it's all set.
You change this.
Oh, this one too? Don't we have another, could we have another, this is April 9th. That's why I'm confused.
Then this is the next meeting.
Right.
Oh, is it? So this was the one where, oh, okay.
I mean,
Oh,
Mona's good,
because it's school
Mrs. Lisbon,
vacation.
but she's not that good. She can't do the minutes before the meeting takes place.
Well, maybe she can work on that.
Performance reviews.
Line 9, okay.
Okay. and
Got it,
also-
thank you. Okay, got it, okay.
Yes. Because I saw that note.
Okay. So before we accept these, I'd like to make a comment about, for the record, and to clarify for the citizens of Dover, if I may. Because at the April 9th meeting, we discussed we accepted the gifts from the Friends of the Dover Greenway to fund the engineering study for the rail trail. And we discussed the fact that we were going to be studying a proposal from an engineering firm that we would hopefully sign the next meeting or two. And there was then an article that was in the Dover Journal Press the following week summarizing the Selectmen's meeting, which is always good to see. But I found a couple of things a little misleading, so I just want to clarify for the town. The headline was, Greenway gets the big greenbacks. Cute, but the fact of the matter is that these are private citizens of Dover who feel committed enough to the desire to have a railbed trail, that they've donated their own private funds to just complete an engineering study. This in absolutely no way changes the process that we have been using for the last 3 or 4 years now, which is that nothing gets done on the railbed without town meeting approval. The town would have to approve a 99-year lease with the MBTA. That by itself requires town meeting approval. So even if all funds were to be raised privately, the whole concept of a rail trail would go to town meeting. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is in no way an attempt to change that process at all, that anything that happens to the railbed will eventually, if ever, come to town meeting approval. So with that, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of April 9th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Dolly, you do an excellent job as the clerk here.
Well, I try my hardest. It's a ghostwriter, I have a ghostwriter, right?
Citizens' comments. I just have two things, calendar-wise. This coming Saturday, May 2nd, is the annual town road cleanup project, sponsored by the Recycling Committee every year for years and years and years.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. If you're interested in helping out, either on your street or other streets that are available, there's a master list that is kept. Please give the Recycling Committee a call. They have an announcement about it on the Dover website, www.doverma.org, right on the homepage, and the contact information is there. They're always looking for folks to help clean up, and it's a wonderful way of saying, yes, the winter is over, the snow has melted, we'll start the spring and the summer with the roads that have been cleaned up. There's a tremendous amount of trash on the roads. It's really incredible. And I know the Highway Department really appreciates the efforts by the citizens, not only today, on a day like the Recycling Committee Day, but also just for everybody to just continue to clean up. When you get your mail, clean up around your house, clean up around your frontage. And hopefully it'll be a nice day for several reasons.
Excellent. And obviously, town meeting is coming Monday evening, 7 p.m. And past few years, it's been a little hairy at 7 p.m. to meet the quorum of 175 people. So we ask that all the townspeople, the eligible townspeople, come out to the town meeting. Please.
The sooner we start, the sooner we get home.
Yes, that's an excellent point.
I wonder if we should start selling hot dogs or something.
Dinner is served.
Dinner is served. Dinner is served.
Anything else?
No.
Anything? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Night.